everyone. I'm Joy, and welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who is trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. On today's episode, we are joined by Anthony Guastella. He's a certified health coach through the Institute of Transformational Nutrition. His coach philosophy is built on his personal experience of overcoming health challenges. He specializes in translating complex health topics such as heart health, diabetes, sleep, and hormones into simple, practical strategies to help people achieve healthier and happier lives. Welcome to Conversation with Sekani, Anthony.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah. So, can you tell us more about yourself?
Absolutely. So, I had a Lyme disease diagnosis that lasted for 6 years. And with this, I was experiencing every symptom you can imagine. So, I had thyroid issues, I had joint pain, which was the worst, fibromyalgia, and essentially, I was in this extreme state of suffering, right? And I realized I was left with two choices. I can either be a victim or a victor. I can listen to the outside circumstances that are telling me I can't get well and this is going to be the rest of your life, or I can be a victor, right? I can look
Mm.
within and I can decide to embrace this as a challenge and overcome this. I had no idea how I was going to get well. I just knew that I made this internal conviction that I'm going to. And it took me 6 long years. And I learned all tools of wellness, personal development, mindset. It was a long process, but like I said, I knew that I'm going to embrace this and get to the other side and help as many people as I possibly can. That's what I'm doing right now. And I'm on fire just to inspire people to become the greatest versions of themselves, take control of their health, their mindsets. And that's what it's all about.
6 years must have been really tough. So, can you tell me what was the hardest part mentally for you at that time?
Yeah, it was a long time for sure. It's just a long process. Like so many times I can think to myself, like, am I going to get well? Like, is this going to happen? And there's just so much like two steps forward, one step back type of thing. And like I said, I always knew that I was going to. So I just held on to that belief. No matter how difficult or challenging that it was, I just made a decision to focus on the process, right? Just focus on this present moment. Don't worry about the future, how things could be. Just focus on right now and optimize this moment. And as soon as you start to make progress, progress equals growth and growth equals happiness in a sense. So as you start to experience like improvement, it just kind of leads to this forward momentum.
Okay, so at what point did you realize you wanted to help others?
Yeah, it was the very beginning, honestly. Like I was always passionate about wellness. I didn't really know what I was doing though. And this disease was kind of like a wake up call. Like there's so many different things, because stress, nutrition, sleep, exercise, all these things can be influencing your state of wellness, right? And
Mm.
when you have this extreme visceral experience, like you have this and you're something that you're going through, right? It just kind of leads into your purpose and your calling. So I knew that it was like an internal knowing in a sense. So I took it full on, I embraced it, and I took it on as a challenge. And I'm going to use the story to inspire other people.
Okay. When it comes to health, being healthy, a lot of people think it's just by working out and eating right. But I believe you have a more holistic approach to health. So, what does being healthy actually mean to you?
Yeah, it's a great point because, as you mentioned, like so many people, we just think of nutrition, exercise, which of course very important pillars, but there's a lot
Hmm.
more to it than that. Like holistic wellness, I mean, that really encompasses sleep, nutrition, exercise in terms of physical, but what about your mental health, your emotional health, right? And a lot of times I hear people get this chronic disease. And they're like, oh, I was eating so well. I was working out. It was just, all it just happens, right? Well, the reality is
Hmm.
disease does not just happen. And real talk, most people who think that they're eating well, and actually, they're really not. I mean, they're kind of following this conventional advice, but they just say that they are. All right, maybe they are. They're not. Perhaps they're not even sleeping. They have terrible relationships, or just in this chronic state of stress, right? So I feel like
Hmm.
awareness is the first step. Starting to become aware of our health and our trajectory and where we're going, and then we can kind of go from there in a sense.
Okay, so I would like to ask this particular question. How much do you think the mental health contributes to like physical health? Do you think the mindset play a role in your physical health?
Oh, absolutely. I believe it's the foundation. I mean, on a scientific level, you can even look at it. There's two scientists I like to talk about a lot. It's immunology, psychoneural endocrinology. Now, what this translates to is how our thoughts, our feelings literally impact our immune system and our hormonal system. So it's literally impacting our biology from a scientific level. I love to say the mind is foundation because it's really the foundation of our decisions, right? Our beliefs, our experiences, our thoughts, all these things kind of make up who we are in a sense. And our nervous system, that's how we experience the world. So it's really important to take control of these things and operate out of a clear mind and kind of get in touch with who we are. And I believe that's the foundation of our strong decision making process.
Hey. So, most of my listeners are in their 20s. So, from your perspective, what are the biggest health mistake people often make at that age without them even realizing it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, we just kind of like go along with our old programming, things that we have done in the past, right? But we don't really see how it's leading to a future impact, right? And I would like to make a mindset shift in ourselves. Like leading the healthiest life you can live right now is actually going to help you become the greatest version of you because the better you feel, the better that you do. The more energy that you have, the more people you can help, the more, energy you can invest into your dreams, right? There's a concept I like to call an energetic investment, right? Like, what is your return on your activities in terms of your energy? So, where are you investing your time, your energy, your mental focus, all these types of things? So, I believe that just knowing that how this impacts you and how it can affect your vision going forward in your life is so important.
Okay. So, I would say, what's a habit you think people should build in their 20s in order to help them live a better life, later on in life? What's that one habit you'd always insist people do? Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to start with nutrition because it's something we're already doing. We're already eating today, right? We're like, it's something that we do. So it's a lot easier to kind of shift what we're doing instead of like starting a whole new thing, like going to the gym, for example. So just
Mhm.
take your small, simple steps, like maybe start eating real food. Like that's what I like to talk about, doing the foundational principles that work for
Mhm.
everyone. So eating real food, eating organic, those are the most important things.
Mhm.
And once we start to take control of those things, it's really about going forward from there, like taking those small individual steps. Because a lot of us, we tend to focus on being perfect. And it's not about being perfect, it's about making progress. And as we start to see improvements in our overall health and wellness, that's where everything kind of starts to build that momentum, as I mentioned before.
Okay. So, stress and burnout are common for young people today. So, from your experience, how does stress actually affect our health long term?
Yeah, stress, it impacts everything. It impacts all of our systems. It's really the root cause for all chronic disease. And, just being able to become aware, take a stress audit. Like, what's your overall stress load? Most of us, we think of stress, we're kind of just focused on work, right? Our career. But the reality is, we can have nutritional stress, like eating ultra processed foods is a stressor on our bodies. Maybe we're not moving.
Mm.
Maybe we have uh, unhealthy relationships, like all these things. Like, what is stressing you in your life? Just start to become aware of these things. And we kind of move from there. And when I talked about stress, there's like two things I really like to go into that. It's hormetic stressors and stress relieving practices. Now, a hormetic stressor is something that you do in the short term that if you allow yourself to recover, you're strengthening your entire biology to become more resilient to stress overall.
Mhm.
Exercise is a perfect example of that. When you go to the gym, when you're working out, all these things, like you're breaking down muscle, you're doing these things to kind of, it's catabolic, is what I mean. It's like breaking down. But if you allow yourself to recover, you're going to become a lot more stronger. So that's an easy example. And within that, you have fasting, sunlight, you have cold and heat. Those are the five ones when it comes to hormetic stressors. And on the other side, you have the more restorative practices such as meditation, journaling, taking walks. And these are just more stress relieving, much more regulating. When we live in a regulated state, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, the parasympathetic nervous system is designed for rest and digest recovery. So, if you're in this chronic state of stress, you're not able to kind of heal in a sense. You're pulling all the way your energy to kind of go to battle in a sense, right? And we need that.
Mhm.
Stress is all bad. Stress is good, but we don't want to have it in this chronic state, right? It's really about adapting to the moment and kind of learning all these tools so we can be more influential, resilient individual.
Okay. So what in what way can you like advise people, young people to manage stress?
Absolutely. So I can go a little deeper into hormetic stressors if you want, or I can take a mental health aspect, like how would you like me to approach it exactly?
Okay. So uh how do you personally take out time to, reset when life feels
Okay.
overwhelming? And
Yeah.
what are the things you often do to, balance your stress level and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the hormetic stressors, you can look at cold and heat, right? Now, cold and heat, these are things like taking cold showers, cold plunges, saunas, and these activate these resilient mechanisms within our body. So, cold, for example, these activate the vagus nerve, which is basically responsible for your entire stress response. So, if you engage in practices that strengthen your nervous system, like cold therapy, also is responsible for brown adipose tissue, which is basically a fat that it burns fat. So, it's kind of good for that as well, metabolic health. And the heat, it activates heat shock proteins, which is basically, again, nervous system resilience. The key here is to build your nervous system capacity, right? Because we all have this capacity in our lives. It's like a thermostat. We can live at this certain wattage, and we can kind of hold on to all these things that may be happening in our day and our life. And the thing is, like, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better, right? Because you can't always control the outside circumstances, but we can control how we respond to them. And a lot of us, what I find is we just focus on the mental aspect, which is so huge. But we don't understand we can actually influence our entire biology, which makes stress so much easier to handle. And anyone who has a regular fitness routine, we can kind of understand this. Like if you kind of think back when you weren't working out and if you've been working out for months, you can just kind of realize how you're just more resilient to overall things in life. You become much more adaptable outside of the gym. And it's because you're influencing your nervous system. And from a mental aspect, I just like to say, go with the flow in a sense. Like, understand all you have is right now. Focusing your energy towards your actions, do not focus on the things that you cannot control, right? Because as soon as we start to control things we can't control, we're wasting our energy and it's a stressor in of itself. So, having a peace of mind, giving yourself a space to think. So, we have so much distractions in our world today. So many things are pulling us away from what is real. And if we can just kind of give ourselves a solitude and kind of develop a relationship with reality in a sense, and start to find out what we believe, our standards, our values, all these things are much more easy to navigate life in a sense. Because a lot of us we don't know who we are, and this makes things a lot more difficult. But if we can start to cultivate the relationship with reality and just kind of move forward from there, I mean, it's sort of so many different strategies, but that's the approach that I take for the most part.
Okay. So with everything you said, it is very insightful. And then the one that stood out for me was when you said focus on what you can control. Because a lot of people focus on things that you can't control, that is within, that is, you do not have the power to control it. And then it stresses you out. So I really took that word you said, and it's something I'm going to apply in my daily life. And I also hope my listeners apply that too. So I'm going to ask you, looking at everything you've learned during your journey, what lesson actually stood out for you?
Yeah, I'll say focusing in on the present moment. It's so important because it's so easy to get pulled away from our thoughts and emotions, and we kind of can fear reality in a sense. And fear, what I look at, is a tool. It's not that we don't have fear; it's about knowing fear. KNOW. Can you understand it? Can you understand your predispositions, your tendencies to reality in a sense? Once you start to know fear, you can navigate it and use it as a tool, right? Because courage is not the absence of fear; it's having that fear and doing that thing anyways. Like, what do you want in life? Like, what is your dreams? What are your goals? Understand that you have what it takes. You are worthy and you matter. All you have to do is overcome yourself. One thing I learned is I don't have to overcome the outside circumstances. I just have to overcome how I respond to them. And understanding that, doing all that you can in the moment is all that you need. And it's going from there. It's not about being perfect, because understand that as long as you're taking those steps, that forward momentum, you will reach your goals no matter what. And I find that the obstacles are just opportunities, and they're here to leverage your character. They're kind of designed to build your character to hold the wattage to live the life that you're meant to lead.
Hmm, that sounds amazing. So I'm going to say a lot of people define success in different ways. And looking at your journey, I believe you have, I believe success is something that you can personalize. So I'd like to know what you define success as. What's your definition of success?
Yeah, as you mentioned, people have different definitions for sure. But for me, I like to look at holistic success. So you just have success in one area. Maybe you're super successful in your career, but you have terrible relationships. I don't think that's overall successful individual. I think it's about optimizing your health, your wealth, relationships, becoming the greatest version of you. That's what purpose is, I believe. It's growth and service, optimizing your life and kind of making the most of your human potential so you can be of service to the world. That's the way I look at it. And, there's another thing, like success without fulfillment is failure. Because if people just success to them is just money and career, if that's all it is, that, I mean, to me, if you're not fulfilled, if you're not happy, if you're not knowing who you are and you're on your purpose, then that's not true success. Like, it's also fulfillment in a sense. Like, being fulfilled with who you are is so important. That's the foundation, right? It's really an art, because it's like you're gonna have ups and downs, but can you be resilient and come back to center? That's the key. And success is really about, just kind of having that forward momentum. And it's not about being perfect, as I mentioned, because things are going to happen. But as long as you're making progress in your life, you're at peace and you'll have this sense of stillness. I think that's a great place to start and a great place to look at.
Hmm. So what is one health myth you think people believe in? What's one health myth you wish would disappear?
Yeah. Like, I kind of have to go back to this. Health is just one thing in a sense. It's like, it's not just about nutrition. It's not about just exercise, right? It's about holistic health, like all these things. Also, it's just like looking for the quick fix. We tend to look to technology or certain things that may just kind of like fix the surface, but I want people to integrate health into who they are. Like, it starts with their beliefs as well. Like, what are your beliefs about wellness? Do you believe that if you have a chronic disease, you can't get well? Well, you're going to find what you look for and what you believe. It's not that the solution doesn't exist. It's that we're not receptive to the solution because of our mental paradigm. So we need to start to shift the questions that we ask ourselves. Because a lot of us are asking disempowering questions like, why me? Why is this happening? But the reality is, all we need to do is shift that question to empowerment. Okay, this is the reality. Now, what I'm experiencing, it may not be my fault, right? Because there's conditions are stacked against us in this world, unfortunately. But if we start to take responsibility, which is relating to, okay, this happened, now what? Yeah, this may not be my choice, but now I get to decide what happens next. And once you start to take that full ownership of the situation, that's when the power is, because then you can start to take the action in your hand, and action is what's going to create your results.
All right. So I'd like to ask you this particular question. I believe you've been on other podcasts apart from this particular one. So what is that one question people do not often ask you, but you would actually like to speak about?
Yeah, I would say, what trajectory do you want in your life, right? Because we all have these goals, these systems, and these values, but a lot of us, we don't necessarily have a plan on how we get there. So I just like to, focus in on what works for you. You have to personalize your success, personalize your life to you, because there's so many rules out there, so to speak. But the reality is, a lot of us are following a set of rules, but they're not getting us to where we want to be. Like, we're doing all these abstract things and we wonder why we're not getting the results that we want. The reality is, you have to do it your way. You have to live your life. You have to believe in what you believe in. Give yourself permission to go what you want to go after. And once you do this, you start to become a light and a model for others, because you realize that freedom comes from within. It doesn't come from without. It's inherent in all things. All we have to do is activate it within ourselves. Freedom is about relating to yourself in a healthy way, become the greatest version of you every single day, living free from obstructions, right? Again, not about perfection, but as long as like you activate at full potential within yourself and you live on purpose, that's what it's all about. I mean, that's what I like to think about. And, like the life that you live are the lessons that you teach. So I think that's a great motivator as well, because you can go through your life, go through your day, and understand that you can turn these challenges into opportunities and into lessons for other people. That's the way I look at it, right? Because a lot of us, we just kind of go throughout our day. But if we kind of start to shift our framework in a sense and start to see possibility in things, I think that's where everything kind of opens up, and that's where how to reach our full potential.
So if you could leave young people listening with one principle that could help them live healthier, more intentional lives, what would it be?
Optimize your mind. Understand that we all go through difficult experiences in life, and understand that get rid of these beliefs that are holding you back. Stop believing that you're not enough. No matter what has happened to you, you have the ability to heal right now. We all go through things, right? And the reality is that we can turn our mess into our message. Our challenges become our greatest gifts, right? And we start from this place of responsibility and we can go from there. No, it's not easy. But guess what? These things, I believe, are here to kind of shape us, or shape our character in a sense, right? We get to decide what we do with it. And just being able to kind of overcome trauma, whatever it is, and cultivate our character and our state of mind. Your state of mind is perhaps the foundation of your entire reality. There's always infinite potential.
Okay. So, Anthony, this has been a really insightful and meaningful conversation. And thank you for sharing your story. So, is there any of your social media handles you would like for my audience to, get to know you? Do you have any handle you are currently active on?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It was fun, and I always enjoy sharing insights. You can find me at anthonyguastella.com. This is my website where I write articles, I coach, and just being able to be of service in that way. A lot of free resources as well. I have a podcast, Anthony Guastella Wellness, where we talk about everything personal development, wellness related. And the mission is to bring the tools of wellness and personal development to people who become the greatest versions of themselves. It's about acquiring tools and the energy to kind of navigate life in a sense, to become better versions of ourselves. And it's kind of activate our potential and realize there's always another way, and that way happens to be your way, right? It's about growth and service, and that's the mission. Just focus on that every day, keep it going, and keep the progress moving.
Thank you so much, Anthony. So thank you for tuning into Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this. And also, do not forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. And let's keep growing together.